the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives a thing its value. Heaven knows how to put a proper price upon its goods, and it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article as freedom should not be highly rated. We may be tired, but we're Americans. America, now's the time to keep fighting this thing. I know you're tired of hearing it. This bill is going to fundamentally transform America. And Mr. President, you're not fighting any other army, you're fighting Americans. And we're going to get up, and not with bullets, not with guns, but with ideas, with faith, hope, and charity. We shall overcome. Thank you for watching today. Apparently, the healthcare reform debate is going to reach its zenith this week. Is it ever going to end? The progressives are pulling out all of the stops. But what they're playing now is, if you don't want this health care bill, you just must hate the poor. You must have absolutely no charity in your heart whatsoever. You see, they know that you do have compassion for those who are less fortunate, because you're Americans. Americans are the most charitable people in the history of the planet by far. They know that, and that leads them to this understanding. The way to get their power is to play on that compassion, and they will stop at nothing to get what they want. Let me show you something that should disturb you on what was trotted out on Friday. Now, let me make this clear. This is a terribly sad story. This little guy who stepped up to the microphone, how do you not ache for him, what he's gone through? But what he's being put through now, knowingly by adults, is obscene. These senators are exploiting him, and it's absolutely despicable. Watch.
My mom was diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension in 2006. She missed so much work that she lost her job, and along with her job, she lost her health care. And losing her health care ended up causing her life, and I wanted to finish her fight for health care.
Dick Durbin and Chuck Schumer, they just dripped with so heartfelt compassion.
Today, 70 Americans will die for lack of health insurance.
We're asking for an up or down vote, and that sounds abstract. It's about Marcellus's mom.
Oh, that's what it is. Unfortunately, Chuck knowingly is missing the facts. First of all, yes, Marcella's mom worked at Jack in the Box and got very sick. She lost her job and her health care. That part of the story is true. But even without health care, she went to the hospital and received treatment at least 2 times. The second time was for 8 days in the hospital. Now, how is that not having access to health care? For whatever reason, between the visits to the emergency room, she refused to go back to the doctor, despite the fact that she was vomiting blood. Was no one saying, please go back to the doctor? I grew up in Washington State. Believe me, they offer a plethora of existing government assistance programs to anybody who's laid off or unemployed. If you're a worker and you're unemployed, they got assistance for you, just like Marcella's mom. Why didn't she enroll? Did she enroll? These are the questions that were never answered with these stories, because the answer too often doesn't fit the agenda. Marcella's grandmother now says that they applied for Medicaid for Marcella's mom in the 8 months between losing her job and when she died. Well, did they wait too long? If they did, can't we hurry that process up? There's something wrong with the process if that is true, but I don't know if it's true. What I do know is, if an unemployed single mother of 3 can't get Medicaid, who can? Maybe that's where we should start looking to fix the system, because that's a change we can all agree on, and we can change it today. Speaking of Marcella's grandmother, she worked for a place called the Washington Community Action Network. From their website, here's what they're all about: economic, racial, gender, and social justice for all. Decent quality of life for all. Change relations of power so all individuals can significantly impact decisions that affect their lives. Shared community and collective responsibility. respect for diversity and building strong communities, truly democratic society with open, honest participation by all. Boy, there are pesky phrases in that one that we should point out. Social justice, shared community, and collective responsibility. And let's not forget, truly democratic society. Well, we're not a democratic society. I think that was the Soviet Union. I believe it's the Democratic Socialist Republic in China as well. Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, everybody, all of the founders repeatedly said because they knew democracies do not work, they never have. But progressives, Marxists, really led by the communists at the turn of the 1900s, they knew democracy was the way to get people to vote for dictators. And you hear it all the time. How democratically elected Hugo Chavez, the democratically elected Saddam Hussein, Vladimir Putin, the democratically elected leadership in Iran. How did young Marcella and his grandma get to Washington to talk to these powerful, compassionate senators? How did they do it? Did one of the senators find out about it himself and then bring them in? No. The trip was paid for by Healthcare for America Now. That's the George Soros-funded, Barack Obama-approved group fighting for health care. Since all of these groups are so concerned and so involved now, may I ask, where were you when Marcella's mother was vomiting blood? Wasn't this the perfect opportunity to help provide a decent quality of life for all, or at least for one? You had somebody in your own ranks that knew that her mother knew. Dare I ask, where was Grandma? We are expected to believe that after this government takeover of the healthcare system happens, these kinds of tragic stories will never ever happen again. That defies all logic and all reason. Not only will the government cause these types of tragedies, but I think we can expect they'll happen even more often. After all, every bit of care was available under Medicaid, created specifically for people exactly like Tiffany Owens. Why is she dead today? The government program existed. Let's fix that one. The bottom line question in all of this sad tale of Marcella's Owens is, what is the real motivation of these U.S. senators? Is it compassion and charity, or power and control?
Over 65 million people fell in love with planet Earth.
Have you noticed a new approach to jamming healthcare down our throats? They're apparently all out of explanations as why we should pass a multi-trillion-dollar boondoggle during one of the most tumultuous economic periods in our nation's history. I know, because here's how Nancy Pelosi is currently selling it now to the American people.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it away from the fog of the controversy.
Yeah. That's about as tempting as Michael Moore in a bikini. I'm going to say no to that one. As much as I trust Nancy Pelosi, I'm going to have to pass on the "you'll love it, trust me, here, open it" approach. After all, she's a woman who led Congress to a 14% approval rating. And yet she wants you to give her carte blanche on the biggest government program of all time, based on trust. Congressman Bart Stupak, he's the pro-life Democrat, he is not supporting the bill because it would federally fund abortions. Stupak says he's getting all kinds of pressure from unions to support the bill, and President Obama is persuading him by saying, no, trust me. I'm the hope guy. Trust me. Don't worry. We'll just let it pass, and then we'll fix it later. How can you trust? How can you trust when he's also hearing from Democrats the argument that, quote, if you pass the Stupak amendment, more children will be born and therefore it will cost us millions more, end quote. Wow, that's disturbing, and yet it sounds strangely reminiscent, almost like John Holdren, the science czar, who says, you know, we can put sterilants in the drinking water and do forced abortions if that's what we have to do if there's some sort of a population explosion.